I want to invite our righteous man into the table to give us some Torah for Yom Kippur. So, Ari Abramowitz, I'm going to take a short break here as we are almost entering now into the essence of the day. And we're going to hear from Ari, his thoughts on Yom Kippur.
Shalom, my friends. We're on the cusp of entering Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or as my rabbi once pronounced it, at-one-ment. It's a sacred sanctuary in time, a day which offers such a unique and precious spiritual opportunity to be at one with God, with each other, and of course, with ourselves. And even the thought of squandering such a gift can cause many of us to feel quite a bit of nervousness and anxiety. And indeed, these are times which lend themselves to nervousness and anxiety. Here in Israel, as in much of the rest of the world, corona is spreading like wildfire, and the government is imposing shutdowns and closures even more restrictive than the ones first enacted when the plague first erupted. So America seems embroiled in a war over its foundational values and identity, with upcoming elections that promise to bring turbulence and riots and unrest that are possibly unique in American history. The whole world feels different, disorienting, it feels confusing, and with these extreme levels of unpredictability, there's no pre-existing template of how things are supposed to look. So I want to share with all of you my experience on Rosh Hashanah and why I hope it will powerfully affect not only my Yom Kippur, but the entire year to come, and please God, it will inspire you as well. So leading up to Rosh Hashanah, I tried to be very focused and intentional in my spiritual preparation, to think through not only is what's the universal service of this holy day, but my own personal work, which is unique to me, and my own personal growth, as to best internalize the mission of the day. So with all the complexities of our world, I tried to keep it simple this time. What do we do on Rosh Hashanah? We coronate Hashem as king. We coronate God as king. Now, God doesn't need our coronation. He's the creator of heaven and earth and the orchestrator of everything, whether we recognize it or not. But on Rosh Hashanah, we recognize this truth in our consciousness and in our experience and in our actions. But what would that look like for me this year? How have I been falling short in declaring God the king of the world in my own life? These were the questions I was asking myself, and the more I reflected on this leading up to Rosh Hashanah, I realized that I have been harboring too many regrets, looking back at too many mistakes I made and wishing that they never happened. And I reflected on the teaching of our sages, Rishaim Malech Haratot, which means the evil are full of regrets. And after much reflection, I believe that means that one is evil not because they have done regrettable things, because we all have, but because they allow themselves to harbor the emotion of regret and to look back wishing that things happened differently. You see, if I truly believed Hashem runs the world, I would know that everything that happens is His will. And if I did something wrong, perhaps it was His will that I did it in order that I fall to such a level that I'm woken from my slumber and aroused to come back to Him with more fervor and more zeal and more passion than if I just kept cruising at the same level. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be ashamed of my actions. I certainly should. But shame is different than regret. Okay, I may be opening more of a can of worms here than I meant to, because delving into this concept could be an entire session of itself, about the delicate balance and the dance of free will. So to get back to the point, my work leading up to Rosh Hashanah was internalizing the truth that Hashem is the king of the world and everything that happens is His will. Everything. And it was that journey which consisted of both mitzvot and averot, acts of godliness as well as sins and shortcomings that have brought me to this place, to this mountaintop in Judea with my loving wife Shana and my delicious daughter Dvash, living on the same mountain as my best friend, my Rebbe, Jeremy, and his beautiful family, and we're fulfilling the words of the prophets on the Judean frontier. It was the entire journey, every part of it, that led me right to here. So as I'm thinking about this, Rosh Hashanah began. And I had never in my life prayed on my own without a congregation on this holy day. But if this is what's happening, then this is God's will. So I kept reminding myself of that. And this is the way we're supposed to and this is the way things were supposed to be, because God is king and he made them this way. I just kept on reminding myself of this. And I had great plans for my personal prayer. I was prepared to make this new experience a lofty and special experience, praying in solitude in our house of prayer at the apex of our highest and most majestic mountain in Judea. If you have to be alone on Rosh Hashanah, that's a place to be. But things didn't exactly happen that way. Dvash wasn't feeling well. One thing after another stole my time and my attention, and what was supposed to be 5 hours of prayer turned into an hour and a half. And right as I was really getting into it, the kids began to arrive. And I remembered that Shana had told the families that at 11 a.m., right here on our balcony, I would be hosting Mango V'Sipurim, Mango and Stories, where all the kids from the mountain would come together and I would tell them stories while they ate mango. So Shana thought it would be a meaningful thing to do, so I agreed. I just didn't know that it would end up detracting so dramatically from my prayer. So I left our beautiful synagogue feeling down and disappointed to go to tell Rosh Hashanah stories to mango smeared faces of little children. And then it hit me. That truly making Hashem king means declaring war on expectations with the same fervor that I declared war on regrets. And if this is what was happening now, then this is Hashem's will. And this is the opportunity to connect with him in the way that he wants. Not the way that I want, not the way I was expecting, or the way that I thought he wants me to, but in the way that he truly wants me to, because this is what was happening right now. So I arrived filled with this mission and purpose and told animated and impassioned stories to these wide-eyed mango-eating kids for well over an hour, with every bit of strength that I had. And even the adults were captivated and silent, and perhaps at the stories themselves, but more likely at the extreme degree of energy and drama I was putting into them. And we hear a donkey in the distance. I remember hearing him as well. And those stories on my balcony in Judea transformed from being a distraction from my prayer into my prayer itself. And this carried over into the rest of the holiday. I kept internalizing moment by moment in real time that wherever I found myself, however far from my expectations, that Hashem is king and he orchestrates everything. So wherever we are right now at this moment, whoever we're with, it's where he wants us to be, it's with who he wants us to be, where we're supposed to be, and where we have the opportunity to come closest to him. And so as we go into Yom Kippur, I want to bless all of us to remember that Hashem is our king. And however strange, unique, and unexpected this Yom Kippur is, it's perfect. And to remember that Hashem is not only the king, but he's also our Father. And he loves us. And he wants us to return. And he wants to forgive us. And he wants us to forgive each other. For let us remember the lesson we learned from King David when he was approached by Nathan the prophet, Natan the Navi, after his sin with Bathsheba and Uriah the Hittite. And the prophet Nathan told him a story of a wealthy man with many sheep who took the single sheep of a poor man and asked him to declare judgment. And King David said, he's guilty, he should die. Then the prophet Nathan, admonishing him, he said, you are that man. Without realizing it, King David was actually passing judgment on himself. And the same is true with us. As we judge others, we're really judging ourselves. So I bless us to judge each other favorably, to judge ourselves favorably, and that Hashem should judge us all with the compassion of a loving father who wants nothing more than a loving relationship with his children. May we all be sealed in the book of life, health, happiness, and redemption for all of mankind. Back to you, Jeremy. Gemar Chatima Tova.
Thank you, Ari.